Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask Me Anything with Dr. Dan. Hope you are all doing well. I look forward to answering your questions. You can send me a question here on Instagram, on Facebook. You can send me a question via my website. Let me know what you want me to talk about. Oil pulling. A lot of people have asked me about oil pulling and how it works. What is the best oil to pull with? The best oil to pull with is coconut oil. Coconut oil has really nice properties. And how do you do it? Well, you take a tablespoon of coconut oil, you put it in your mouth. The clinical studies actually show to pull oil for 10 to 15 minutes, to swish it around, leave it in your mouth. If you can't do that, that's fine. Do it as long as you can. And one of the key things to do is to make sure that you don't spit it into your sink with your water, because the oil is going to separate from the water. It's going to get in your drain and you're going to have a clogged drain. So spit it in the garbage can. How does oil pulling work? Well, it's really cool. The way that it works is oil pulling, when you have oil around the teeth, what it actually does is the bacteria that's sitting on the gums, bacteria can't adhere to the gums or in between the teeth anymore. And so it sloughs off of the gums. That's how oil pulling works. So it's a really good thing to do, clinically studied and backed. So give oil pulling a try. How to use black seed oil. To use black seed oil, you could take a tablespoon or two. You could put it in water. I usually put it in water, mix it up that way and drink it. It doesn't taste the best, but hey, good food is medicine. Tofu. Why does tofu impact memory? That's a great question. And we don't actually know why. I just recently posted a reel on Instagram and Facebook where they showed that middle-aged and elderly people, when they eat a lot of tofu 4, 5, 6 times a week, that actually their memory gets worse. And we don't know why that is. We're still trying to figure that out. But it's interesting science that, too much of a good thing can still be too much. So we're still trying to figure that out. Maybe it's a gut microbiome thing. That's what my thought is, that perhaps eating so much tofu can cause dynamics in the gut microbiome. But anyways, we're not sure how that is. What other questions do you have? Let's see here. Black seed oil, we talked about that. Our monthly 72-hour water fast optimal. I haven't seen really solid scientific literature saying that a 72-hour water fast is good for human health. It's okay if you want to do it once in a while. And so monthly, no problem with that, but I wouldn't do it more often than that. Water fasts, I would say once a month is great. Is it bad to take melatonin for sleep every night? So there's interesting clinical studies that have just come online. There was one that was published about a month ago showing that melatonin increases risk of cancer. I have a lot of issues with the study, how it was done and the data that they pulled and whatnot. But taking melatonin every day as a supplement is not the best thing to do. If you look at the research and the clinical studies, melatonin is actually really good for jet lag. That's where the strongest research is, for controlling circadian rhythm. So for insomnia and for sleep issues, melatonin isn't the best thing to take. There's other things to take. Tart cherry juice is great to take because not only does it have melatonin, it has the polyphenols and other molecules in it that's really good for helping to bring circadian rhythm back into balance. All right. Low in iron. Yeah, not liver or sardines. Sardines, really good. Tofu actually has some interesting literature. Eating it once or twice a week can actually help to raise iron levels. Guava's actually really good to raise iron levels. What's the best way to consume turmeric and how does it help? Turmeric's really cool. The active molecules in turmeric is called curcuminoids. And these curcuminoids are marvelous at promoting human health because they reduce inflammation in the body. They're master regulators of inflammation. Turmeric, there's many different ways that you can do it. I put turmeric in my shake every single day. I put turmeric in my yogurt, in my kefir, obviously cooking curries and different foods that contain turmeric. When you're taking turmeric, you want to make sure that you have oil with it as well so it can dissolve better, because turmeric by itself is not very soluble in the body. It's not soluble in water. Vibration plates. Vibration plates have really nice data. If you've seen my post on social media about vibration plates, I was surprised, honestly, when I started looking at vibration plate therapy a year ago or so and started using it. I was surprised when you look at the scientific literature. The data is actually really strong on the benefits of vibration plates. It's really interesting in its physics. It's both physics and chemistry that these really small, micro, nanoscopic movements can actually cause micro-inflammatory environments. So there's two different types of inflammation. We need to understand this. It's important. There's acute inflammation, which is just really small, minor inflammatory cascades that are going on in the body. And then there's chronic inflammation. And when we think of inflammation being bad, that's chronic inflammation. But acute inflammation is actually a driver for change. It spurs us on, just like a trial in our life, helps us to be stronger and better. These little acute inflammatory responses, because of vibration plates moving on the body, can actually increase bone density strength. It could increase muscle health. It can increase cognitive function. It's crazy that these small vibrations throughout the body, globally throughout the body, can affect the different systems of the body. So if you haven't looked on my blog, go to my blog, drdanguber.com, look up vibration plates, and you can read all the cool data. There's actually a lot of really interesting data there. Sourdough bagels, black or white sesame seeds. Black sesame seeds are better. If you're going to eat sesame seeds, you should do black because it contains more of a really cool molecule called sesamol. There are a lot of different types of magnesium. How much is too much? So when you look at the scientific literature, I would do just a few hundred milligrams of magnesium a day. Look for magnesium that's highly bioavailable, like a magnesium yeast glycoprotein complex, magnesium threonate, magnesium bisglycinate. Those are good. And then foods, protein has good amounts of magnesium. Do I know about BCP157, the peptide? Yes, BCP157 is the rage right now. There's a lot of people talking about it and how beneficial it is for different areas of human health and wellness, for strength and for activity, for workout, also for weight loss. And the data behind BCP157, it's actually BPC157, is actually pretty strong. The problem, though, is this is in an area, peptides are not regulated in the industry. And so I was reading a paper the other day. There's a lot of issues when it comes to adulteration with peptides in the supplement space. So I'd be careful with that. And be sure to choose a supplement that has clinical data behind that peptide. So in that tofu study, what do they consider middle-aged? About 45. That's the age group that they were looking at, where they started to see the deleterious effect of memory, starting at about age 45 on up. All right. What other questions do you have for me? Best way to get kimchi and fermented foods. Best way to do that, hands down, is to make it. It's really easy to make kimchi, sauerkraut. You can find recipes online. You could ask ChatGPT to, a cool prompt would be to scour all of the best science-based kimchi recipes and create me one by pulling all those together. And it actually does a really good job there. Good to see you guys all. I hope you are all doing well. Is blending a whole lemon every day and drinking it good for you? I wouldn't do the whole lemon, but there's actually really good studies on lemon juice. So a couple tablespoons of lemon juice each day before a meal can actually help to regulate blood sugar, help to regulate insulin, can help to reduce appetite, and can help with weight loss. Best way to reduce inflammation. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Exercise, cognitive function, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, gratitude. I recently did a reel about gratitude, and it's interesting. Isn't it fascinating? There's studies that you can look on my blog about gratitude. There's studies showing that just being grateful can reduce inflammation. Meditation, mindfulness. Now, obviously what we eat is the biggest thing to help to keep inflammation levels low. There were some recent clinical studies that just came out in a journal called The Lancet. And if you don't know The Lancet, it's one of the best scientific journals on the planet. And they published 3 or 4 studies in the most recent issue of The Lancet, showing that ultra-processed foods are key drivers of inflammation. And they also show that ultra-processed foods can damage every organ of the body. Ultra-processed foods, we knew this already, but they're really one of the key drivers for obesity, for Alzheimer's, for stroke, for diabetes. Now, what do we mean by ultra-processed foods? Well, what we mean by ultra-processed foods are they're foods that don't look like nature. There's no like clear line about what is an ultra-processed food, but something that is not natural. You can't just go, kneel down on the ground and pull out a donut or a scone or a cookie or anything like that. So it's important that we eat as close to nature as possible. All right. What other questions? Is creatine good? 5 grams per day. Yes, taking 5 grams of creatine per day is good and has really good health benefits. I'm looking at my list. Other people have asked me questions throughout the week. Oregano oil. What about oregano oil? Oregano oil is awesome. It's one of the best bactericidal agents in nature, meaning it can help kill bacteria. Now, there's different types of bacteria. And there's some bacteria that are so nasty, they grow so well, and normal antibacterial agents can't touch them, right? And there's different terms for these. Some of these are called multi-drug resistant bacteria, MDR, where basically they've taken really strong chemical compounds and drugs, and they're still not able to kill the bacteria. Well, oregano oil can actually kill some of these bacteria. So it's really good when it comes to killing bacteria. We got to be careful though, because in our gut we have bad bacteria, but we also have good bacteria. So if you're going to use oregano oil, use it sparingly. That reminds me of the 80s and 90s. You remember everything was antibacterial soap, antibacterial lotion, antibacterial shampoo. It was everywhere, and all the cleaners, and they had all the commercials about killing bacteria. Well, these things that would kill bad bacteria, like alcohol. When you take hand sanitizer, alcohol, and you put it on your hands, guess what you're doing? Not only are you killing bad bacteria and whatnot that might have gotten on your skin from touching something or being in the bathroom, but you're also killing good bacteria indiscriminately. And so you want to be careful about that. You want to make sure that when you're doing anything from an antibacterial standpoint, that you are preserving the good bacteria on the skin. And one of the cool things about oregano oil is some of the molecules in oregano oil are more selective for bad bacteria than good bacteria. Red light therapy. Red light therapy has some nice data behind it on its ability to stimulate collagen growth, to stimulate elastin, to make the skin more elastic, to help with reduce hyperpigmentation, age spots. The key is you want to get a red light therapy mask that has good data behind it, that has adjustable laser wavelengths, and also if you're going to go to a spa, go and see someone that knows how to do it well and that has the right equipment. Is sauerkraut really a super cure for anxiety? I haven't seen any strong clinical data relating to sauerkraut as a cure for anxiety, but sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented foods have been shown to help with depression and mild forms of anxiety. And why is that? Well, because these foods contain really beautiful molecules, and they also contain really beautiful bacteria, good bacteria that can help to repopulate the gut microbiome. When you look at the scientific studies, people who suffer from mental health, most of the time, a lot of the time, their gut microbiome is out of balance. And so if you're feeling off and just not yourself, and we all go through those slumps, eating fermented foods is a really good thing for that. So kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha, make sure that you're eating fermented foods on a regular basis so that the gut microbiome always has a good, plentiful amount of good bacteria. Because stress and anxiety can actually reduce amounts of good bacteria in the gut. So it's good to make sure that we're doing that. Can I eat Brazil nuts every day? Yes, you sure can. 2 Brazil nuts every single day gives you an adequate amount of selenium and really good for bone health, for cognitive health, for gut microbiome health. And Brazil nuts are one of the best nuts to eat. Have you eaten yours today? I ate 2 for lunch. And the other thing with ultra-processed foods, I'm looking at my note here. Someone was asking about absorption. One of the reasons why ultra-processed foods and the modern processed diet is so bad for us is because there's no absorption. Not only are these foods terrible for us, but the medicinal molecules that are in those foods or could be in those foods are not absorbed in the body. And here's why. Think of it when you eat an apple or a kiwi. You have macronutrients like fiber, protein, carbohydrates. You have micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. You have these phytonutrients, these medicinal molecules, and they're all combined in one beautiful little package. And Mother Nature, when she designs food, she actually designs it and optimizes it for absorption. So when you're eating an apple, a kiwi, an orange, whatever it is, an avocado, you are getting optimum amounts and ratios of all the different molecules in the body so that the body can metabolize those, break those down, and so that they can be absorbed. When you eat a breakfast strudel, for instance, there might be medicinal molecules in the fruit that's in there, maybe a really small amount, but we're trying to be politically correct here. But the point is, you have white flour, you have refined sugar. None of these things are designed for absorption. And so that's one of the reasons why we need to stay away from ultra-processed foods, because of absorption. All right. Is drinking a warm glass of water with Celtic salt beneficial? There are studies showing that salt water can be beneficial for health. Gargling salt water obviously has been done for a long period of time. It depends on how much salt you're going to put in there. I would not put very much salt in there at all, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon or something like that. But there isn't, it would be better to do other things. For instance, you could take a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in water, and that has really good health benefits for reducing inflammation, for brain health, to protect the brain from Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases and things like that. All right. These are great questions. I'm looking through here. Cottage cheese. People have been asking me about cottage cheese, and I did a yes/no on cottage cheese. It's been a while ago. Cottage cheese is a really excellent protein source, and it's also really good for helping to build muscle strength. So if strength training is your thing, and not only if strength training is your thing, but more importantly, if you're trying to maintain muscle mass, I'm thinking middle-aged people, elderly, as we're getting in our mid-40s, our 50s, or 60s, maintaining muscle mass and not losing muscle mass, that's called sarcopenia, is one of the most important things we can do for health. And so cottage cheese has really good scientific data behind it in its ability to help retain and actually build muscle mass. So cottage cheese is a really good thing to eat. All right, everybody, let's see. Sodas, diet or regular soda? That's a great question. Diet soda, if you're going to do one or if you have to do one or the other, diet soda is going to be better depending on the sweetener that's used. And it's kind of this pick your poison, because sugary sodas with all the sugar in there, there's hard scientific data showing that drinking sugary sodas can lead to increased risk of obesity and diabetes. I mean, that's bulletproof research. There is research starting to come online showing that diet sodas that contain aspartame, ACE-K, sucralose can cause an imbalance in the gut microbiome. And that imbalance in the gut microbiome can then lead to things like obesity and diabetes and chronic inflammation and whatnot. But across the board, if you had to choose between a diet and a regular soda, go with a diet soda. All right. Let's look at what other questions do you have. Please send them in to me. Elderberry. I did a reel on elderberry not too long ago. And a lot of people were asking, well, will elderberry overstimulate the immune system? So if I have an autoimmune disorder, will taking elderberry actually make it worse by stimulating the immune system? And the answer is no. Elderberry can help to strengthen and bolster the immune system, but it's not going to overstimulate the immune system. Elderberry is really powerful, has this great molecule called sambucol. So if you haven't taken elderberry recently, I just made elderberry syrup a few days ago. And actually, before I hopped on this podcast, this live, I took 2 tablespoons of elderberry syrup, and I feel great. I'm going to travel here tomorrow, and so I want to make sure that I'm on my A game, that my immune system is primed and strong and ready, and so elderberry is one of the best things to do. Oatmeal. Is oatmeal good? So there's a lot of interesting research with oatmeal, and oatmeal is very polarizing. And when you look at social media, one of the primary statements that people are saying is oatmeal is just covered and doused. Oats are doused in pesticides. Well, show me a scientific paper on that oats are doused in pesticides in larger degrees than other natural foods. I haven't seen that. Oats contain beta-glucans, really awesome molecules that are prebiotic, meaning good bacteria like to eat beta-glucans. So beta-glucans, oats have molecules that can help with weight loss, with blood sugar control and whatnot. Organic oats are the way to go. Obviously, you want to control for carbohydrates because oats do have a lot of carbohydrates in them. So when you're eating your oats, obviously avoid drenching them in brown sugar and things like that, but pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, some chia with the oats and not too much oats, limiting the added sugar could be a great thing. Yeah, and oats are really good for cholesterol. Great. People have asked me, what's my routine? So I wake up at 5:30 in the morning every day. I exercise for about an hour. I go to the gym with my wife. I run a 5K 4 or 5 times a week. I do some strength training, and then I come back so that I'm home before my youngest daughter goes off to high school. I make me a protein shake. It's my secret recipe. and then I go to work. I do meditation and mindfulness. But before I go to work, I do meditation and mindfulness. I read, I study, I ponder to make sure that I'm on my A game and feeling good. Go to work, jamming out on new ideas, figuring out how to use small molecules from plants, from the food that we eat to improve human health. And then I come home, I go on a walk with my wife every night. That's a non-negotiable for us. We go on about a 45-minute hour walk, brisk walk. Not we're not running or anything, but we're not walking so slow that you can just ponder and figure out how to solve world peace or anything like that. We're touching, having contact with your spouse, with your partner. Physical contact is a big thing. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of different things when it comes to heart rate and whatnot, but there's some cool clinical studies showing that actually when you have a partner, a companion that you're intimate with and you're holding hands, you actually share the gut the bacteria that are on the skin, which is connected to the gut. So actually your second brains connect with each other. And they're spread throughout when you have a partner. It's kind of crazy research. There's some more research that's coming online about it, but it's really, really powerful, really cool. When it comes to protein, I recommend whey protein isolate. 100% whey protein isolate is what I recommend. All right, is it okay to eat cheese every day? Absolutely. Cheese is amazing. It's a great source of protein. Cheese, especially blue cheese, has some really cool molecules called andracins that have powerful anti-cancer properties. So eating cheese, maybe a tablespoon of cheese, combining cheese with figs or dates, that's my favorite thing to do. So instead of desserts, I'm 164 pounds now currently. I used to be over 225 pounds. And one of the things that really helped me is to stop eating sugary desserts and ultra-processed foods in favor of cheese. Instead of dessert, while everybody was, going for their brownies and ice cream and cookies and whatever, I would have cheese with figs, with dried apricots, with grapes, and that was a wonder. That satisfied my sugar craving and whatnot, and that really helped when it came to weight loss for me. Okay. All right. Is coffee bad for elevated ASL and ALL? Coffee, it depends. I would ask your medical practitioner based on your specific circumstances. And also when it comes to caffeinated beverages like coffee, tea, energy drinks and whatnot, some people, due to their epigenetics, they don't handle caffeine as well. And so you can actually get genetic testing done where they can look at the alleles on your genes to see how sensitive or not you are to caffeine. And so if you're thinking about doing that, that's a really good thing. So you can see when it comes to energy and getting energy each day, how it works for you in your system. Okay, a lot of people have asked me about binaural beats. Do you know what binaural beats are? B-I-N, I want to get it, A-U-R-A-L-B-E-A-T-S, binaural beats. This is really cool, and it has a lot of really good scientific literature behind it. And basically what binaural beats is it's music where they actually, and the best way to do it is to have headphones on. And what they do is they actually play a frequency in one ear and a different frequency in another ear. So for instance, a frequency of 310 hertz in one ear, a frequency of 300 hertz in the other ear, and you subtract 310 from 300, and that gives you a 10 hertz difference. And that difference, what's really cool is when you have that difference, it causes this illusion in the brain. It actually causes brain waves to change a little bit so that the brain is more adaptive to certain circumstances. And so, for instance, if you have a 10 hertz difference, 10 to 14 hertz is good for relaxation and focus. 1 to 4 hertz is good for deep relaxation and sleep. And 15 to 30 is for alertness and energy. And so binaural beats, someone mentioned here, they're really good for learning. So you can go to here on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever you get your music, and if you type in binaural beats, they'll actually have a great selection. And I encourage you to do that. When I'm jamming out on a big project and I put binaural beats on, my productivity is 3 to 4 times more. Seriously, it's awesome. And the music's free, you can find it, and it's a really cool hack to do. And, it's also good for sleep as well. But I use it mostly when I need alertness, when I need energy, and when I really need to focus, like when I'm brainstorming on a new idea. So give that a try. Cancer and sugar. So people, like when you're diagnosed with cancer, they say that you should eat less sugar and it starves the cancer. Is that true? Well, it doesn't really starve the cancer, but it does a few different things. When you eat less sugar, that actually lowers inflammation. Do you know that white sugar, is inflammatory to the body? And so cancer feeds on inflammation. It thrives in the chaos of inflammation. And so eating less sugar, really good thing to do. All right, let's see here. Let me look at my list of questions. Please keep the questions coming. Grateful for you guys. I hope you are all having a wonderful week. Does K2 and D3 increase chance of kidney stones? No, not in the scientific literature. And obviously it depends on how much, but at normal levels, 100% of the recommended daily intake, no, it doesn't. How to lower triglycerides naturally? Great question. Kiwis are really good at lowering triglycerides. Bitter melon, really good at lowering triglycerides. Most green leafy vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, both green cabbage and red cabbage. Let's talk about that real quick. So green cabbage and red cabbage, powerful foods. Do you guys eat cabbage a lot? If you don't, you really should. And especially the red or the purple cabbage has molecules, anthocyanins in them that are really good for longevity. So if you want to live longer, I want to live to 112. That's my goal. What about you guys? How long do you guys want to live? I want to be on this beautiful planet for a long, long time. And red cabbage is something that I eat a lot. Okay, extreme constipation with clean diet. What can help? Kiwis. Kiwis are awesome. And obviously prunes, eating 2 to 3 prunes a day, 1 kiwi a day, awesome. What are my thoughts on the Biblio diet? That's a great question as well. The Biblio diet has, in a lot of ways, it's like the Mediterranean diet. When you look at a lot of the things, when you read the Bible and they talk about figs and nuts and meat, protein intake and whatnot, I think the Biblio diet is just kind of a new spin on the Mediterranean diet. A lot of the things that I've read, and there's great literature behind the Mediterranean diet. Not as much literature behind the Biblio diet per se, but when you look at the foods, it's pretty similar. Okay, does anxiety and depression cause H. pylori? It doesn't cause H. pylori, but it can cause it to flare up, for sure. And so helping to reduce anxiety and depression is a big deal. Foods that can reduce anxiety and depression, raisins are good for that. Tomatoes are good for that. Supplementation, if you're looking at herbs, botanicals, bacopa, ashwagandha, rhodiola, really good for that. Awesome. Okay, let's see here. People are asking about binaural beets again. Yeah, if you haven't tried binaural beets, give it a shot. It's gonna be amazing. Best foods to ward off colds. Tomatillos, really good to ward off colds. Other foods, elderberry. Back to the elderberry, my friends. I would make sure that I have, especially during the winter months, if you're here in the Northern Hemisphere, where I am, that you have a supply of elderberry all the time. I just gave it to my daughter as well the other day. I mean, it's just a powerful thing to do. And the great thing about elderberry syrup is I like to actually concentrate it to make it even more potent, more concentrated. So you can play with the ratios. Over the years as I've been making it, I've been playing with ratios. And I like to really concentrate it down where it has a little bit of sharpness, acidity, and bite to it. And when you do that, I've analyzed my elderberry syrup that I've made before in the lab, and it has large amounts of polyphenols and anthocyanins and sambucol, the molecule I was talking about earlier. It's powerful. All right, does protein cause osteoarthritis to flare up? It can if you take too much protein. And so I would moderate your protein intake. 30 grams of protein, 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, 3 times a day. That's a good amount of protein. It's interesting in the world we live in. Protein's in everything now. Protein water, high protein yogurt, protein powder. I'm a huge fan of protein powder. But again, moderation, right? The dose, the poison is in the dose, right? Too much of anything can be too much, right? Too much water, the universal solvent of life, right? Which if you don't get enough water, your body dies in relatively short order. If you take too much of it, it could cause your cells to implode on itself. So we need to be really careful with that. Are eggs bad for the liver? No, eggs are great for liver health. They actually contain molecules that can help with liver enzymes and whatnot. All right. Okay. So low testosterone levels and what can help there. So organs, I know you guys don't like to hear this, but organs, beef, organs, liver, whatnot, can help with testosterone. There's supplementations. There's a powder from Southeast Asia called Tonka Ali, which has shown some interesting studies behind it and its ability to increase testosterone levels. Exercise, great way to increase testosterone levels. Going on, and even I talked earlier about walking. Even just going on a walk can help to balance hormone levels. Avocado, is it okay to eat? Absolutely. Avocados are awesome to eat. If you have fatty liver, yeah. So when we're talking about fatty liver, it's all about how the fat is metabolized or not metabolized. And so when we're eating fat, we want to make sure that we're eating whole foods where we have a balanced amount of protein and carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, and critically, these medicinal phytonutrients from plants that can help to push things in. That's one of the issues with ultra-processed foods, like fried foods. fried chicken. I love fried chicken as much as the next person. But when you look at fried foods, right, you have oil, you have fat, you have some protein, but the balance isn't there. So that's the key. You want to make sure that things are balanced. All right. Spermidine supplementation. Spermidine, there's not a lot of great research on spermidine. So I would stay away from that for now. Top spices for your health. Oh, that's a great question. Saffron. Saffron's amazing. Cardamom is really good. There's those are the ones that I would go with. Sumac. Sumac is incredible. Have you guys used sumac before? Making sumac chicken in the Middle East and other amazing cultures around the world, they use a lot of sumac. And sumac is powerful for blood sugar support. It's powerful for reducing insulin resistance, and it's a wonder spice. Yeah, you should really use sumac. All right, I need to go here pretty soon. Pistachios before bed. Yeah, it's okay to take pistachios before bed if that's your jam. For me, I don't like to eat anything after dinner as part of my intermittent fasting routine. But you could eat pistachios before bed. Now, why would you do that? Because pistachios are a source of melatonin. And so we talked about, melatonin supplementation maybe by itself isn't the best, but eating foods containing melatonin and the other medicinal molecules that are in pistachios, really powerful. All right, my friends, I need to take off. I'm so grateful for all of you. Join me next time. I hope you have a wonderful week and take care.